If you've made it a goal to get better at savings this year, whether you are saving for an upcoming wedding, a new car, maybe a down payment, or maybe you really want to build up that emergency fund, you want to keep it in a really great savings account. So today I'm taking a look at two amazing banks, Capital One and Ally Bank, and comparing them side by side. I've been using both of these banks for a while, and here's what I found out. Hey guys, it's Justine with Debt Free Millennials, the channel to help you crush your debt and live payment free. Now, in order to live payment free, I really think building up great savings inside of high yield savings accounts are the way to go. Whether you are saving for short-term goals, like maybe a vacation, upcoming vacation, or you want to add a new furniture piece to your home, or long-term goals like a down payment or a replacement car, high yield savings accounts are the way to go. If you are in a traditional savings account, by the way, you're doing it wrong. Banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, USAA, Navy Federal, they are all the biggest offenders. In Bank of America, they're ridiculous. They are the biggest offenders of charging very little interest. I'm talking 0.05%, 0.01%. It's ridiculous. That's why I love banks like Capital One and Ally Bank, who are giving out really great APY interest earned on your savings accounts. So let's talk about the major features that I saw for both Capital One and Ally Bank. First, what's great about both of these banks is that you can connect an external bank and start funding money into those savings accounts. So you can connect it with a credit union or a bank, any kind of checking account, and have that money transfer into those high yield savings accounts. Also, when the interest rates increase or decrease because of what the Fed interest rate is, you're going to see those fluctuations happen pretty much at the same time for Capital One and Ally Bank. For both of them, currently at the time of this recording, they are both offering 3.4% in interest on your high yield savings accounts. And as that federal rate increases or decreases, you're going to see the fluctuation with your savings account interest rate. Now, they both have very easy to use mobile apps. I've downloaded both of them on my phone, and I was able to make transfers very quickly, easily on the go with their apps. It was also really easy to set up beneficiaries. If you haven't set up beneficiaries yet for your high yield savings accounts, make sure you do so. This is something that's really quick and simple that you can do, whether or not it's a partner, a friend, a family member, or a kid. You want to make sure that you have your beneficiaries set up. It was very easy to do on both of those platforms. Also, setting up recurring transfers into those high yield savings accounts is very easy to do with both of these banks. Now, let me tell you about the little specifics and the little nuances that I found with banking with Capital One, and then I'll tell you about Ally Bank and then give you my bottom line of which one is better. Okay, so when you enter into your account on Capital One, especially on the desktop, this is a no frills dashboard. There's not really much to this. You can see exactly how much money you have in your account. For me, I'm using Capital One for my vacation fund. And then you can see the recent transactions of when I funded the account, when I was paid out my interest of $2.23. Thank you very much. And then I started adding some more money in February. I've also set up recurring transfers every single month for $100 into this account. So when I set up that transfer, I created a savings rule. So you can basically say how much you want to save each month. And then the frequency options were weekly, every other week, monthly, and quarterly. And then you can pick a specific date that you want to start that on. Now, I did find that the frequency options here were kind of limited. I was only given 4 options, whereas Ally Bank had a lot more options that I'll show you in just a second. Now, opening up my account with Capital One literally took 5 minutes. Everything was online. I didn't have to talk to a live customer support person in order to do it, so I found that was really easy. One hang up that I did have that I was not really crazy about is that I had trouble accessing my account using mobile authentication. So even though I had my phone number associated with my account, it still wasn't recognizing my device. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to add an external checking account. At that time, I had added an external savings account for the vacation fund that was currently in my primary bank saving account. I wanted to transfer it over. Now I want to make consistent transfers every single month from my checking account. So I had to go through an automated process with Capital One, which took about 10 minutes before I actually got through to a live person. Then it took an extra 5 minutes for them to basically verify that what I wanted to do, grab my credentials, and connect my external checking account. So it took me 15 minutes to do what I think should be a really simple online activity and transaction, and I ended up calling. So I was not very pleased about that. Another thing about Capital One is I didn't see any way to organize my savings. So if I have a lump bucket of $5,700 for my vacation fund, let's say I want to earmark $1,000 of that for flights and then an extra $1,000 for food and hotel. There was no way for me to actually organize that money inside of the account. All right, let's talk about Ally Bank. I've been using Ally Bank since 2018, and I have to say there are a lot of really cool features about this bank. So inside of your high yield savings account with Ally, they actually give you some really cool data information and show you exactly the performance of your savings account and the potential growth. So I can really quickly see how much my balance was for, this is for my down payment, how I can see that increase over time, and then what the growth was like month over month. Another cool feature about Ally Bank is that you can organize your savings into different buckets. So these are not separate savings accounts, rather they're just a way for you to earmark that money inside one savings account. So even though the core savings is $104,000, I want to earmark home upgrades of $10,000, and then I want to earmark about $22,500 in closing costs, so I know how this money is being allocated and shaping up to be. So you can add up these saving bucket goals and then say exactly how much you want in each of those buckets, and then what the target date is, which I think is awesome. So I think this is a really cool feature that I haven't seen in any other bank that I've banked with. On top of the savings buckets and organizing with that, there are some boosters, savings boosters, so you can see what is active and what things to explore. So for this particular high yield savings account, I have recurring transfers set up to go into this savings account. I also just set up surprise savings, which is really cool. So basically what you do is you can connect your checking account. It can be an external checking account with a different bank, and then they are going to analyze how much extra money they can pull from that checking account and put it into your savings account to make that money work harder for you. Because as we all know, checking accounts typically don't yield any interest whatsoever. If that money is just going to sit there, it might as well work harder in a high yield savings account that's earning interest. So I love that they did this. They said in there, let's see. Okay, so for the surprise savings, they'll move money over between $1 to $100, and then they typically move money on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So I really like that the savings, the surprise savings, is not a high amount, but it's just enough that you're really going to see that savings account really increase. So I think this is an awesome feature. I just turned it on, so I am really excited to see what it does next. Another thing that you can do with Ally Bank is you can turn on roundups, and roundups are basically just rounding up your transactions up to the nearest dollar and then taking that amount and putting it into your high yield savings account. Now the roundup feature is only available if you have an Ally checking account specifically and you're actively using that checking account. So otherwise, I would say go to the surprise savings feature if you want to continue to increase your savings amount even even more. Also, the frequency of transfers and contributions into the savings accounts had a lot more options with Ally versus Capital One. You could do every week, every 2 weeks, every month, every 2, 3, 4, 6 months. And so I really liked that they had more options for that. Another pro that I see with Ally, and I think maybe this is just specific to my own scenario, I had multiple savings accounts and there was one savings account that I wasn't utilizing at all. So I wanted to close the account. Typically when you're closing accounts like this, you do have to call a live person in order to close it. I actually was able to close my 4th savings account. Yes, I had 4 savings accounts there with the online chat support person, and this probably took me about 10 to 15 minutes to do it. But what I liked about it is that I didn't have to actually get on the phone with anybody. I just waited for somebody to come online. We just did a quick back and forth text exchange on their chat support, and then it was done. I felt like that was so easy to do, and it took up very little of my time because I could be doing other activities. So what's the bottom line here if you are trying to decide between Capital One and Ally Bank? If you want a no-frills approach, you just simply want to set up the transfers and do like a one and done type thing with your high yield savings account, then I would go with Capital One in this case. Capital One kind of reminds me of your baseline model of high yield savings accounts. These are the Toyota Camrys of the online banking institutions. Now, if you want more features and you want to see some potential savings growth and activate some of those savings boosters that I mentioned, you're definitely going to have to check out Ally Bank. It just had way more features for the savings account. It got me motivated and more excited to save with them because I could see the potential growth over time, and I could see how I could unlock even more savings by utilizing that surprise savings feature with my checking account. Ally Bank to me is kind of like the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. It just has more features, it's more fun to drive, and I still think it gets you to your financial goals, maybe even gets you to your financial goals even faster because it makes savings fun. So which are you going with, Capital One or Ally Bank? I don't think you could go wrong with either bank. It just really depends on what features you like to see. And for me, it's Ally Bank. I'll catch you in the next video. You guys give this one a big thumbs up and I'll see you later.